Right there.
Oh. I literally turned my head. Wow. Okay, you like put that hood to good use because I didn't see you. You like right? All right. Good morning. Thanks for those that stuck around for the other panel and those that came in for this panel. So my name's Tanya. I'm gonna let folks introduce themselves. But we're going to talk about the hustle and flow, aka the truth about making it and what that means, and all the work that a lot of people don't see and don't realize goes into being seen as someone who's made it. Everyone's going to introduce themselves. We're all adults. I'm not going to read this at you. Just note that, when talking about the journey to making it, some of us may talk about things that have been said to us, said about us, so we may say things that are racial slurs, biphobia, fat shaming, body shaming. Wow, I've lost words here, not just talk for an hour. So things that are terrible isms and phobias may be said to you or that have been said to you about us. All right, so I'm gonna go last.
Hi, I am Brian. I'm Urban Bohemian everywhere, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, internets, right behind you, etc. Yeah.
What do you do, Brian?
What do I do? Mostly do Twitch streaming now, but I basically kind of built my own personal thing around writing and food blogging, and then kind of as the word and term influencer became a thing, sort of slid into that, though I really don't trust. I don't know. It's just weird. I'm in my mid-40s, so it's weird to think, oh, I'm an influencer. I'm like, I know.
Hi everyone, my name is Inango, Lumumba Kasanga, you can call me Inango. I'm also a rapper and producer who goes by the name Sammus.
Dr. Sammus.
As of June 20-something, I am a doctor.
I'm Tanya. I run my mouth law on the internet about diversity, inclusion in games, feminism, race, etc. People occasionally pay me to write about these things. I talk at conventions a lot, so this is probably the most I'm going to be home. Well, I don't live here, but I will be home for like a week and a half, and then who knows when I'll see my apartment again. I stream, I do a lot of other stuff, and I'll actually be back in 2 weeks to speak at the Smithsonian American Art Museum and give the keynote at Sam Arcade. I brought some flyers. If you're local, please come by. It would mean a lot. And it was just announced that I am a guest at Good Girl Con, so I'll be all over Seattle in November. So yeah, that is what I do. Shonte.
Hi, my name is Shonte. I'm a games journalist, writer, critic. Been doing that for about 5 years now. I'm also a host for a podcast called Non-Player Conversations. It's a podcast about celebrating marginalized folk, people of color in the gaming community and all the different things they do, like cosplay, making games, writing music, things like that. And that podcast is available Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. But I mostly focus on just writing about games. I do also write poetry, but I think for the purpose of this, I'll just talk about my games.
Hello, I'm CJ or Yakfrost. I'm a little bit newer to this, this whole influencer game. I graduated from VCU with a degree in gender and women's studies and sociology and global education, and then I kind of took all of that and then I merged it with my love for cosplay and art. I'm a cosplayer and an artist, and I use my platforms. I initially got noticed as an artist on Tumblr first, and then I moved to Twitter, and then I started cosplaying, and then I kind of fused the two together. And now it's kind of this eclectic platform where I just post the things I love, and I also speak up about different issues, especially within the cosplay community concerning discrimination against marginalized populations. And yeah, I'm just a big, loud social justice warrior. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so I don't have the housekeeping slide I had in my previous panel, but just a couple things. One, I know a lot of you have been in other panels. Folks raise their hand, they call from the audience. Not here. If you have a burning question, hang on to it, and when we get to Q&A, have an actual question. If you don't have one, I will ask you to go find it, or what you were asking me. We don't need a backstory, your life, whatever. Just ask a question, because we only have 50 minutes for the whole panel. And again, feel free to tweet, tag us. You know, photos are okay with everyone on the panel. So I forgot to do that last time. And we are streaming it on my Twitch channel as well. So when we do Q&A, we're not gonna like show you on camera. We'll just repeat what you said so folks watching the stream can hear it. And with that, I tailored this a little bit because we are mostly a POC audience. So how many folks here heard that you had to be twice as good to get half as far? And some days it feels like 3 times as good to get a quarter as far. But you know, this is something that we all have dealt with. And you know, quickly, how has this affected like what you've done, your path to what you're doing, or where you are now? Because like, how many of us have worked real hard behind the scenes for years before people realize what we do, or you get that moment that people seem to think is overnight success.
Right. Yeah, that's the most frustrating. It's always like this has been in the process this whole time, and then finally something happens and people think, oh, an overnight star or something, and it's never that at all. But I think the idea of like working twice as hard has been tiring. It's just exhausting, I think, honestly. It's like, obviously this is work I want to do. Writing is what I love to do, and I want to be out there as much as I can. But there are times, and thinking about in the gaming space, there are times where I feel like I'll write an article about a certain subject, and then someone else will write about that same subject in the same vein, and that gets more views for whatever reason. And it's like that person could be white, they could be writing from a publication that gets more views than where mine was published. It's just like it never seems to be balanced in a way that is ever like in my favor at all. It's very frustrating to always have to be on the ball and like juggle all these things and be perfect when it seems like no one else ever needs to be that perfect. So I guess I come at it very angry. I'm very upset at how hard we have to work when others do not.
I would also add to that, as you can hear, I've been having a very good convention, so I'll try to speak as loud as I can. That the other part of it, in terms of being, I think, a Black creator, is that the work differs, right? It's not just the work of emailing a whole bunch of people or updating your website. It's also dealing with microaggressions in your workspace. It's also trying to find space to heal after, you know, a traumatic thing has happened that's shaken Black folks in this country, right? Going into a workspace the day after another Black person has been gunned down, and nobody else is talking about it, nobody else is thinking about it, nobody else cares that weight is on your shoulders, and you still have to show up. So I think that the twice is good to get half as far. The work aspect of it is balancing both the having to do all of the same things 2 times as much as everybody else, while also doing the emotional work of existing in this place as a Black person.
Right. But as far as the, I guess, cosplay community goes, it's that, like, if you're not conventionally attractive and like white and skinny, you have very low visibility, and it's very, very hard to get your work out there so that everybody can see it. And on top of that, there's a lot of, I guess, quote unquote, top-notch white cosplayers that, since they're in the spotlight, you know, often their, I guess, following or their following are pretty racist and pretty awful. And so, you know, when somebody, like, even as a light-skinned Black person myself, like, seeing people who are, I guess, seeing people who are not white cosplay white characters, there's so much backlash. You can't do that, so you have to make your cosplay extra good so that maybe perhaps somebody will congratulate you on that. And there's just so many, the cosplay community itself is very, like, I guess, contrived and convoluted, where they're like, cosplay is for everybody, and
That's a lie.
that's a lie. That's some like big, all-encompassing, like, make you feel better diversity points thing. When they say cosplay is for everybody, that means that everybody like me, like everybody that's white or a light-skinned Asian, you know, everybody you see in like the cosplay magazines. Yeah, in order to get noticed as like a POC, you have to just go above and beyond, make these crazy creations for to get noticed. There's probably, I can name on like maybe one hand, like the famous, I guess, black cosplayers, like Cutie Pie Sensei was here. There's K-Bear, Sandy Bess. Yeah, so yeah, but meanwhile there's so many like well-known white cosplayers, and yeah, the visibility, there's a visibility problem in the cosplay community.
So I just want to talk about since you brought up visibility, when you do get to that point, and I know Sam is, and I know about this weirdness because one of your songs is about like people who don't think you made your own beats, and the other one was like not getting off the internet.
Yeah.
Like when you are a person, so when you do quote unquote make it, you either get a lot of followers, or if you ever get a blue check mark, people go, but you're public, and they treat you like literally your public property. They can say and do whatever you want. And then when you go, not today, Satan, they have this moment of how dare you, you're not grateful, etc. And Brian, like, you know, we've experienced stuff with streaming and other things. So I want to hear from Brian and Shonte, since you haven't talked a lot yet. No, because like Brian, you're out, you stream, we both use the LGBT tag. How is that in any ways influenced how people either respond and or mistreat you? Because like, how dare you exist and be in this space and not be ashamed of who you are?
That's rough. I am fortunate to so far on Twitch. So far on Twitch, haven't had tons of stuff though. Like using the LGBTQIA tags during Pride Month definitely brought in a whole lot of just ridiculous shenanigans and nonsense and hateful people. But just being out in anything I do, like just kind of assuming that you got your seat at the table, not because you worked for it, but because they're like, oh well, you know, we have all these people, and oh, let's invite a black person, or let's invite a queer person, and you know, again, to talk about earlier, it discounts how much you have been hustling just to even get close to the list of consideration. It's like you earned your spot, but I feel like it's hard, period, first off, just being visibly black anywhere in anything, especially creative efforts, because it does feel like those are, like, the creative spaces are just the domain of, like, the, you know, streaming, especially that same, like, scruffy white nerd who's always shouting and playing Fortnite, or, you know, online, I had the thing where I was blogging, you know, like, daily, and then the content mills came up, and it would just be exhausting to you know, write some little thing, and then you have like Huffington Post and BuzzFeed, and they weren't even paying their writers, but they all of a sudden have 15 articles about the same thing that you either wrote about or were thinking about writing about, and it's very draining and exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting for me because there's a lot of times where I've wanted to write something that's negative, a negative view, like games or a game or the gaming industry, and I sometimes have to rethink whether I want to, because I know I'll get that negative commentary, and it's not just like criticism. Like I'll have a conversation. If you disagree with me, I'm fine with that. But this isn't conversation. This is just hate. This is just insulting, and so I always have to think about whether or not I want to put myself in that position. And it sucks. It makes me upset because it's something that I want to express, but I feel like if I do that, I'm setting myself up for just that hatred and that hurt. And so it's, you know, it also doesn't seem fair at all, especially thinking about in the gaming space, especially gaming YouTube, where there are plenty of popular, angry white people that'll just yell about games, and they get popular because they're yelling about why a game sucks or why a company sucks. And they'll get plenty of views for that, but I feel like if I tried to do that same thing, I would just get yelled at for being upset. And that's it.
Let's not forget how we met.
Right.
So Shonte and I both wrote articles about that fighting game ARMS. Oh shit. You know what? Pal's over. Goodbye. I was like, wait. I heard that. You know how you hear that certain voice? I'm like, oh, it's time to go. But I wrote about it in the framework of why is the one brown chick, why is her hair a weapon? And it was a springboard talking about black hair in games. It was okay. It was okay received, and then like other black folks really didn't like it. Like, how dare you? And they acted like I told Miyamoto himself to go jump off a cliff, or to not buy the game, to boycott it, etc. And Shantae wrote a piece about loving the game and loving Twintel. I almost had to block the name out because look.
Right, I understand.
Well, no, because it was interesting because Shantae's article was great and she disagreed with me, but she disagreed with me like, I get what she was saying, but I disagree, versus a lot of people, like I had people hitting me up on my own Facebook. I had somebody who wrote a response but didn't have the nerve to tag me, and they know who they are.
Annoying.
Well, and then I have people like tagging me, or, and this is something we're going to talk about later, but if you have a friend who's well known or e-famous or whatever we're going to call it, and you see someone talking shit about them online, don't send them the link. Don't send them the screenshot. So that's someone going, did you know they're saying this about your article? I'm like, the fuck would I care? Why are you ruining my day like this? But like, we started talking about it, because I was like, you know, I appreciate your perspective, you appreciate mine, but we didn't have to butt heads and be like, oh, your article's trash because you didn't like this. Because I didn't say I didn't like the game.
Right.
I just said I have an issue with a game that weaponizes black women's hair. That was my point. And I appreciated what you did, because you're like, no, this is, for me, it's powerful. It's uplifting. I enjoy it. And we went about our day and we're friends.
Right, exactly. Like, everything was fine. But I was also terrified to write that. I was terrified to write that article, and it wasn't because of you. It was because I was afraid people would use that as a black woman pitted against another black woman.
They could have tried.
And I was afraid to have this disagreement that was very harmless. It was, like Tanya was saying, I completely understood her argument, because Twintel is the only black woman in ARMS. And if no one's familiar with the fighting game, the whole concept of it is that the arms they're springs, and they basically fight with springy arms. But for Twintel, the only black woman, her hair is her weapon, literally. Her hair is weaponized. And so, you know, I felt very uncomfortable having that discussion, because I didn't want people to like see me as good and Tanya's bad, or vice versa. I didn't want it to be like this big old clash. I know, it's like you can't control that. But it was like, I don't want to help feed the fire. And I wound up doing it anyway, because I was like, I don't want to censor myself, but I was very scared. And I'm happy that we are friends because of it, but I'm also sad that bullshit had to happen because of it.
We'll talk about that in a minute, because I got a slide called "Be Your Own People."
Yeah.
So does anyone else have anything to say before we go to the next slide? Because I don't want to rush people. I do want to make sure everybody talks. But there are 5 of us in a 50-minute panel.
Right.
So.
I do want to talk about the blackface incident that happened to me, where like the Russians and the Europeans.
Yeah, go ahead, just speak up.
Okay. Alright, I don't know where to talk about this, I guess, as part of the panel.
I mean, we can talk about it. We can talk about on the next slide with what does successful even mean.
Gotcha.
Okay. I was a little too quick on the draw. You don't have a bell here. Someone in the chat use a bell. We have the chat open so we can monitor chat as well, because Twitch, y'all. So I've talked a lot, but especially, you know, because for Sammus, you just got your doctorate. You've been out here doing tracks and touring, and you're about to get married. Like that for a lot of people, that's like you got everything, eating your cake. But for other people, it might be like, oh my God, when do you sleep? That's me. I have to like, did you have water? Did you eat? So like, for all of us, or because I want to give a Sammus, and then you want to share your story. What does it even mean? Because for everybody, they see, like, they think like, oh, you got a big Twitter following, you got a blue check mark, you're doing blah blah blah. That's successful. It's like, I just want to sleep. That's me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting, the dissonance, and I'm sure a lot of us can speak to this, the dissonance between your like public persona and how your life is. So especially this kind of comes up for me when I talk about going on tour. For a lot of folks, they don't have really an understanding of what it means to be a musician at my level. And by at my level, I mean kind of like an independent artist who's doing this and it's sustainable. It's I'm able to pay my bills with it. But I'm not Mariah Carey. I'm not, and especially like for my parents, for example, they have no concept of what it means to be a touring artist. Either you're like destitute and you're hanging out on a corner busking, or you are Jay-Z and Beyonce. So I think for a lot of folks, they also have kind of that mindset where, okay, I saw you had an article on Tidal, so have you talked to Jay-Z? And it's like, do you know how this works? No, I have not talked to Jay-Z, and I'm pretty sure the writer who wrote this hasn't talked to Jay-Z or anybody sort of like even close to this person. So yeah, I think I often find myself having to even talk to those closest to me about what this sort of life means, and that's really, it's a choice, but it's very difficult in a lot of different ways. Like, you can be on a tour and have, the best show. Last night was wonderful, and then go to somewhere, some other city, and 3 people come out, right? And then you go to the next city, maybe 20 people come out. So it's definitely, it's a risk, and even for your ego, it can be really tough night after night to, throw yourself into this. You've promoted it, people have told you, I'm coming, I'm gonna see you there, I can't wait to see you. And life happens, and 2 people come, you're rapping for yourself and your bandmates, And so I think one thing for me that's been important is, again, asking this question of what success looks like for me. And for me, it's doing this sustainably and still being happy while doing it. That's kind of the baseline. It's all I can ask for, because I can't change how other people engage with my music or how they work with me, but I can change how I approach my craft. So that's where I'm at.
I agree with that statement. And in the cosplay community, measuring success is kind of weird. It's kind of, people don't have to have, like, I guess, a certain amount of followers to be a good cosplayer. Often, again, like the visibility issue, there's often many white cosplayers who do very average, very mediocre work, and they have, like, more followers than, like, a very good, like black cosplayer who does, like, amazing craftsmanship. And that's, that's another issue in itself. But as far as, I guess, success in the cosplay community means that you have it's very hard. Because, like, cosplaying itself is, like, you're making your own costumes, or you're buying your costumes, either or you're just working to create, to portray a character, and portray a fictional character in a TV show, video game, what have you. And it's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be something cool people can do, and oftentimes, you can guest at conventions. I guess that could be a measure of success too, or you could have opportunities to go on, I guess, BuzzFeed, I remember the thing about cosplay. I don't know, there's many different, like, Kotaku talked about it, and that was actually a bad article that they did, but yeah, so in terms of success, I think it's just the visibility, making sure your work gets noticed, so that, like, if you want to, like, cosplay as, like, a side hustle or a career, have a Patreon set up, people can, like, help fund your work because they want to see you as particular characters, or they want to see you make tutorials and work in progress things so that they can make the costume on their own. So how I got my quote-unquote success was interesting, because it was speaking out about an issue within the cosplay community that infuriated people, because I made this list of blackfacers in the cosplay community, because blackfacing is something that many white or light-skinned people do so that they can portray a character when you don't need to darken your skin to cosplay someone, and that's also just very racist. Like, you shouldn't do it. And, like, there was this, oh my gosh, I think this cosplayer cosplayed Lifeline from...
Oh, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. She streamed it.
Yeah, and that was, like, the
That's
final straw, and I made a list of, like, different cosplayers. I said, hey, send me these cosplayers who have blackface and haven't, like, apologized or shown remorse for it or anything like that, and then I will put them on this list, and you share it and you block them, because it's very triggering for, like, black people and, like, dark-skinned people of color to see this content on their feed. I was tired of, like, scrolling down and seeing it, and then just and, like, 9 times out of 10, like, people would be like, oh my god, you look so great, you look just like the character, wow, and they share it, and then, like, the black people that actually cosplay the characters that they look like nobody pays attention to them.
Right.
And so I listed out why blackfacing was wrong. I listed resources for anybody who was clicking on it that was on that list to read why it was wrong, and like all this other stuff. And then I posted it, and then it went pretty well, and then everybody's like, yeah, cool. And the next morning I woke up to like notifications. My phone was blowing up, and then like my inbox was filled with hate messages, people calling me slurs, people calling me a Nazi. Because they thought that me writing a list was like, I don't know, like stage one of I don't even understand like the logic that people use. But this European cosplayer retweeted it and was like, please block this incendiary piece of trash who thinks it's okay to police how people cosplay. And then comment section, oh my gosh, how dare they? Oh my gosh, oh my goodness. And then underneath my original tweet, everybody's like, you trash, I'm reporting you immediately, I'm reporting your Patreon and coffee. And they did actually get my coffee like banned, because what I did was I was like, here's my coffee, because this took a lot of emotional labor to go through all these pages, get the screenshots, and like get it all together so that you guys can see the proof that these people blackface. And I put my coffee there, and everybody's like, oh my god, you're asking me for money for this? Oh my goodness. Reported, and they blocked my source of like income for this whole situation. It was frozen for a whole month, and it wasn't until I like tweeted, I was like, hey, at coffee please, like these people just reported me because they were upset like about this, and then they fixed it. They were like, oh, it's fine, yeah, we got this. I guess, I don't know if coffee support has a very large team, but essentially, yeah, they tried to cut off my source of income because of it, because they were so mad at what I said. And then they also, there were also many like well-known cosplayers in Europe. I think Germania, I don't know. It was like somebody, they made posts on Facebook, they tagged me, they went through all my social media, they messaged me, they DM'd me, they screenshotted my posts, they commented on every picture, calling me fat and ugly and stupid and all this other stuff. And this one person, she went so far as to stalk me because I blocked her on Instagram, and she found me on Facebook, and she commented on every single post on my Facebook saying, you coward, you won't talk to me, how dare you, you racist, you Nazi, all this other stuff. And then I kept deleting her comments, and then she's like, you're a coward. And I just like replied with like a popcorn gift, and I was like, listen, I can delete your comments all day, I can block you, I don't know. People can like come and see this and see you embarrass yourself, like it's kind of weird, like you're just kind of obsessed at this point. And then they're like, no, girl, we're gonna forget about you at the end of the day. And I was like, get off my page if you want to forget about me.
but that's talking about the emotional cost as well as like the emotional labor that the emotional labor we're forced into, and the emotional labor that people expect of us. So we've got about 20 minutes left, so I don't want to get too far in the weeds. And we talked about this a little bit, and I'm just gonna leave the slide up here. The next part, I want to talk about that emotional labor. Oh boy, if I could show y'all some of the DMs I get. But you know, the myth of overnight success. I get a lot of people, I'm sure you get it too, like, now that you're like a guest at a con, stuff like that, people go, oh, well, you're overnight. And I'm like, have you not seen the years of work? All these tracks that nobody ever heard, these beats that nobody ever heard, or the articles I've written that nobody cared about, my one friend liked. Look, I got plenty of stuff that's out there that nobody has liked, nobody cared about, versus the, oh, you get an article in Polygon so people read it. The comments are never worth it, just so you know. So I just want to put this here as more of a reminder, because we did kind of touch on this point already. And I want to keep it moving as well, so we have time for Q&A. This is where I want to talk about us putting in the work. So I feel, because I forgot who said it, because I have not finished my second coffee. But one of us talked about like how people see you on Twitter, they think that's all you do, and that may have been you in the previous panel.
Yeah, maybe.
I went up to 7. I wasn't playing. But people see like, oh, you got this big Twitter following. They think that's literally all you do is talk on Twitter, and I'm like, nope, nobody is going to pay me for tweets. Let's be real here. When I put out my coffee link, my Patreon, that's for the things that I do to keep the lights on. And all of us, like Brian, you haven't had a chance to say much too.
I don't take up space. One panel with 4 women, that's awesome. I don't take up space.
So I'll explain the look later.
That means I'm gonna have to say something.
Yeah. But it's like, but you talk a lot on Twitter. You talk about issues, and I'm sure like we've all gotten but you're just someone on Twitter. Why should we care about you?
And I mean, true, no matter what, at the end of the day, you are just someone who has access to the internet. And I think in the previous panel, they basically talked about figuring out your personal brand and how you use social media to either be yourself, build your brand, or both, how you tie those things into one. And yeah, the overnight success rolls into this. Like, you're doing, you're on your hustle and your grind, and you're posting things and writing reviews and doing all this, and then one thing you do hits, and everyone's like, oh wait, who the fuck are you? And it's like, well, there's all this other stuff that I've been doing for all this time, and or like, oh, I didn't know that, especially for a lot of us, I didn't know there was anyone else like you in this space, whether it is music or writing or cosplay, YouTube, any of that. And it's just like, just Google is free. None of us are here to be your, oh hey, can you tell me about more like Black food writers or more Black streamers? And I was like, no. I mean, I know them, but yeah. So I think there's a lot of just assuming that somebody is, like, their Twitter feed is what they're all about, and you see that one tweet that all of a sudden makes numbers, and you're like, oh wow, like that's who you are. I'm like, no, there's a whole lot else and a whole lot of work it took to maybe find that one joke that was funny, or that one piece of art that you sell, or that one thing.
Absolutely. There's so many times in my writing career where I'll like write an article and I'm like, this is good. This is a good one, and no one reads it. And it just gets like 2 views, 5 views, maybe like a comment. It just doesn't go. And then then there'll be an article. I'm like, all right, this is whatever, and everyone loves it. Or maybe I will get lucky and something that I do genuinely think is good will then get views. But it's so luck based. It's just like perfect timing, where like your article is there, or your music's there, or your whatever is right there when everyone's also right there and also looking at it. There's no control over it. And that's why it sucks so much that people sometimes think it was an overnight thing, when it's like, I've been doing this for years and finally you've noticed. And maybe I've also gotten better. Maybe my writing has gotten better, but at the same time, it's like, this was a process. This was not an instant, like all of a sudden my stuff was just appearing. It's always a journey.
Yeah. So there's like, that other slide's redundant, so we're gonna skip over that one. But I want to talk about this before we open up for Q&A. I went backwards. I'm awake. All right. Oh no, this is the last slide. So I want to talk about this because people don't want to put out the dirty laundry. Because I'm gonna be that person. It's my last panel here. Now I don't have to talk to nobody for 2 weeks. But who here has heard that first phrase that all kinfolk ain't skinfolk? I use it. I know I say it a lot. My grandmother taught me about that one. But I want to talk about that because that factors into the idea of success. There's a lot of Highlander mentality of there's only one black nerd at one time ever. And I'm like,
what?
So, who said that? So, you ain't never met no other black folks that act like, oh my God, I'm a nerd, I'm so oppressed, and I'm extra oppressed because I'm a black nerd and I can't find a black girl that likes video games. You ain't never seen that on Twitter.
I've seen it. It's just funny because you said it, and I was just like, oh my God.
I mean, like clockwork, there's always the black girls don't play video games, black women don't stream, and I'm
Where are all the black gamers?
Where are
Like,
they?
what are you
Does
talking
anyone
about?
know? Yeah, unicorns.
right, but it's like, well, let's talk about that because that is a factor of success. Or like, somebody gets too successful too quickly, or they're not the right kind of black person. I'm putting all the laundry out. I don't care who's in the room. Because I'm ordinary. I'm going to go have a drink after this panel. But let's talk about that briefly because CJ, being out in the cosplay community and being like we're both light-skinned. And I know, and I'm going to say it, and I've said it before, I don't think I would be where I'm at if I was darker. I would not be palatable enough for certain folks who would like to give me money.
Yes, I agree. Because I like oftentimes I'm like, okay, now that you follow me, follow all these dark skinned cosplayers. Like I retweet them all the time, and I'm like, look at them, look at their work. Like don't just like I'm not the only person. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something I struggle very much with because for me it often unfolds in terms of emotional labor or work that I'm not sure whether I should be doing or not. So, for example, I'm offered opportunities, right? It might be from not necessarily a convention, but some organization or group that's run by Black folks, right? And I want to support it, and I feel like it's amazing. But also, some shit might not be run in the best way, or they're not compensating me in a way that I feel like is commensurate with the work that I do. And if I know they got it to give, it makes me feel some type of way, but I also want to be supported. So I'm always playing this dance of like, I want to elevate where it is that I'm at, elevate the work that I'm doing, and be able to do this sustainably. And I don't ever want to have money or certain things guide what I'm doing. But I don't want to be hoed. Like I want y'all to like take me seriously. And because we're both Black folks, doesn't mean you get to talk to me any type of way, or that you don't respect me in the same way. Like I love you and I appreciate you and I want to work with you, but like put some respect on my name, you know. And I think that there can be this assumed familiarity that I never know how to engage with, because there is a layer of recognition. We've gone through similar things, but I also feel like I want a particular professionalism to my exchanges with you. It frustrates me when that doesn't happen. So that's where I come to this.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like I said, I'll see conventions or I'll see groups or whatever, or I'll get DMs like, hey, I'm Black and I'm doing a Kickstarter, I'm doing a whatever. And it's like this just expectation that you Black, I'm Black, you got me, right? And I'm like, what's your business plan? Once this Kickstarter's done, what are you doing? Because look, I'm gonna put the evil name out there. Universal Scam Con has fucked that names for a lot of people. Now you want to talk. But let's just put it out there. This was a bunch of Black folks who banked on we're Black nerd, big name, whatever. And then when it didn't happen because of their own fuck up, they blamed the community.
Yes.
And yes, I'm talking about it. Y'all want to tweet about it, go ahead. I don't care, because I'm gonna be mad about that shit till I die. But this is the kind of thing we're talking about. It's like everybody's like, oh, but they Black, we gotta get it together, forgetting that this exists, other things exist where it's by people of color, for people of color, because there can be more than one convention. But show me a business plan. I'm not trying to be that person, but my name is not going on anything else until I see that you got it together. And that's where I think people will then turn around and go, but you ain't support other Black folks. I'm like, I'll support you. I'll give you $1 a month on Patreon, but you're not putting my name on no convention.
I definitely agree that there can be more. First off, there can be more than one thing happening for marginalized creators at the same time. But I think we talked about yesterday. I feel like a lot of us on Twitch are like, when we subscribe to each other, like, are we just passing the same $5 around Twitch forever? Which is true.
We are.
We really are. But yeah, the FanCon thing, I think it, and there are people who have like visceral hurt feelings about this because they didn't plan, they didn't really have a game plan. They talked it up, they hyped it up, they lived on hype. And then when it all felt it basically just the bottom dropped out and all the truth started coming out. Their first thing was, well, people didn't support us enough. I was like, well, okay, did you not account for the fact that you might not sell whatever? Did you not send checks to reserve things? Like, whose fault is that? That's not the fault of the community. That's the fault that y'all didn't have your shit together. And we all kind of feel like a loss from that.
Yep. And on that cheerful note, let's go to Q&A. So we've got about 9 minutes. Please have a question. Okay, so hold on. So you got to ask a question last panel. I'm gonna get you in the back, and then you, and then you. Yes.
Okay, hi. So my question is, how do you all stop yourself from being discouraged? Like when you write something or make a getting as many views. So I basically just wondering what is it that you do? Basically, do you have like any mental health days or something
Okay.
like that?
So for those watching the stream, what do we do when we get discouraged, like the stream article doesn't get a lot of views? A couple folks want to answer this.
Yeah. I think for me, especially going back to like expecting an article to do well and then it just doesn't. For me, it's all about just like, and it sucks because I do take like mental health days, but to be honest, it really is just like perseverance and knowing that I do love writing and knowing that if I stay consistent, I will get something from it. People will view it. It's hard because it's like you never know when something will get viewed and when you'll get those likes or retweets. So I try to just tell myself, if I just keep going at this, if I do genuinely love what I'm doing, and that's the thing. If you love what you're doing, then it should be a little easier to keep going. If you're starting to fault whether or not, maybe I'm just not into this anymore, then maybe take a step back and think about whether or not you want to keep going with whatever artistic endeavor you're doing. But for me, it's always about, this is what I love, I'm determined to do this, I will keep doing this, and I will get those views. Like, it's just, I have to keep up with that positivity.
Yeah, and for me, I think honestly it's like affirmations and mantras, a lot of those, especially like I said, you go to a show and it's like 4 people there, and it can be easy to say, well, you know, fuck it, I'm just gonna do a lazy show, or I'm just gonna, but reminding myself, like, why do you do this? Why are you here? Who is this for? Asking those questions, and then it's like, I'm performing for myself right now. I'm performing, this is therapy for me. So, like, saying it out loud, like really, really saying those things in the mirror, like Issa Rae, like really giving yourself that big up.
Yeah, I actually took something from a friend, Andy. I keep a virtual book, or well, on my blog, I kind of keep track of what I do, things that I've accomplished. And those days where it's like, I stream and there's 10 people, and I feel like, why am I doing this? I got a check mark, but only 10 people showed up. And it's not the end of the day, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person, or that next time I stream there's not gonna be like 50, 60 or whatever. But I go back and think about what have I accomplished, and remember that this one thing is not the be all end all of what I do. There's plenty of other things I do that I do well, that, you know, but I also remember to keep myself humble, because I try not to talk about, I hate actually talking about myself. But it's like, I can look at this and go, oh yeah, you did this cool thing, or someone wrote an article and they like what you did, and remember that, and then the next time I do it, at the end of the day, that content is something I want to put out, and people come along, cool. If they don't, oh well. Yes, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask Samus a question because I'm an educator. So I'm going to my 3rd year teaching in Richmond Public Schools, and it can be better. But I've actually suffered from a lot of success blocking in terms of like fellow educators that are like elder Black women, sort of demeaning you, and like, you know, you're coming in and you're young, like you're the new kid on the block. And my first year I went through a lot of hazing, and I kind of just saw it as like, okay, they're just hazing me because I'm new. And my second year I was like, okay, so it's gonna stop. And there's like another girl on the team, she's white, she's like the same age as me, she's kind of young. She'll get the hazing now, she's the young one. I still got hazed. So I was just like, I guess.
So where's your question?
Well, no, my question is, I get it, like you're trying to like.
Don't worry, we got 10 minutes between panels, we can chat.
Okay.
I know that there was another, Jeffrey, did you have your hand up?
Yes. My question is, for everyone, but more so Samus, internalize or struggle with sharing the work of others. And I know Tanya mentioned this, where you see, okay, this is legitimate good work. I did read this article. I did check out this music. I'm gonna share it, but then some days it feels like, am I not doing enough? And you're struggling with yourself, but then you see your friend, brother, cousin, whoever, they're just on the lower end. Like, how do you?
Started doing this thing on the first Thursday of every month. I'll share an artist that I've seen on tour, or who came across my desk, or that I just love and appreciate. And it's been really organic in terms of who I love, and it just happened to this artist because of you. And I love her, and now I'm going to see her on tour when she comes to my city. So I have kind of, I think you can focus your energies in so many different ways that I have to structure it like that.
So we've got 2 minutes left, and I know you had your hand up. And then we can chat, anybody who didn't get, we can chat as soon as the panel is over.
Okay. My question was actually about gatekeeping and imposter syndrome. Like, I think we all know in the nerd community there can be a lot of gatekeeping. Like, girls don't play video games. But also as a minority, it feels like you kind of get it from both sides too. Like, there's the racism and there's the people who are like, you're not dark enough to claim the POC both color title, or you're genderqueer, so you're not really trans, or that sort of thing. How do you deal with that?
I tell them fuck off. Nobody's gonna tell me I ain't black enough to be someplace. And you know, I have earned my stripes and bitterness from 4 years of Twitter being called every slur under the sun. If you want to start some shit with me about I ain't black enough, and I've had people tell me that to my face, you will get a hearty fuck you.
Yeah, same here. You don't have to prove anything to anybody also. I'm like, I'm black and Filipino. I say this all the time. I'm black and Filipino. I'm not one or the other. I'm both, all at once. And like, you know, I stand in my blackness. And I also, you know, I recognize my privilege. You know, I'm light skinned and, you know, but like, I, you know, like going off like the last question, I do uplift, you know, other black people. I make a point to be like, okay, now that you follow me, here's all these talented creatives here, darker skin, please follow them and get to know their work too. Like, you know, but like, essentially just say fuck off, like honestly.
All right, and unfortunately that is time, so everyone please share where we can find you, your work. And then like I said, there's 10 minutes between panels, so I've got cards up, Brian's got cards up, come and say hi. So Sammus.
Everything is at Sammus, SAMMUS Music. Tweet at me, Instagram me. I'm not doing shit on social media for the next 2 months.
At Yakfrost, YAKFROST, on all social media you can find me on. If you have any cosplay work, anything creative, want to show me something, I'll retweet it, I'll share it, vice versa.
I'm at ShonteWrites, so SHONTE, and then Writes, like MWRITES. Also, you can find me, I have a website, ShonteDaniels.com, that has all my articles, my podcasts, and things like that. So if you're looking for an archive of my work, just go there.
I'm Cypheroftyr everywhere. If you look up my name, Tony in your house, you can find me, unfortunately, very easily. But yeah, that's me everywhere, Cypheroftyr.
I'm Urban Bohemian on every social media service out there. Unless I can't get Urban Bohemian, in which case I'm just not on it, because that's a whole mess.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.